Here.
Nancy Barker.
Here.
John Gibson. Joshua Dillon.
Here.
Tom Kern. Excuse me. Bobby Palmer.
Here.
Jason Roach.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we need 6 members present constituting a quorum. Jeff Barrett.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Barrett entered the room.
On 2 wheels.
Chad Britton.
Here.
Larry Clunt.
Here.
Linda Davis. Jimmy Riley.
Here.
Charles Thacker. Sybil Von Trent.
All right, everyone, it's good to see everybody here today. I know we kind of had a long night last night, but we look forward to working through the budget today and hopefully getting a first draft together. To start off with, Eric has handed out some different documents to give us some ideas of cost projections that he's come up with. And so, Eric, do you care to go ahead and talk about some of these?
Absolutely. First, just want to do one follow-up from last meeting. Mr. Gillen had asked me to do a little research on the contribution history for the library system. So I looked back as far as 12, 13, thought that was a pretty good look back. And at that point, they were receiving $94,000. It looks like that figure changed in the year 15, 16. They went up to $100,000. And then that number held true until 22, 23, and it increased to 105. So that's your brief history of the library and how the contributions changed over time. All right, so everybody look at the COLA sheet first. We'll go over that one briefly. You'll see various numbers on there. I ran 2, 3, 3.2, 4, 5, and 6. The reason for the one oddball number 3.2 is that is what we actually said we would do when we tied it to the Social Security adjustment. So when we passed our salary policy, that's the number we said we would try, funding permitting, to tie to. So that's why that one is at 3.2, and that's another whole number of options. This year, this calculation does include an adjustment for a COLA adjustment to the part-time personnel as well. However, in light of the discussion on reviewing the Sheriff's Department salary scales, they are not included in those figures currently. And me personally, I kind of have mixed feelings about that. I kind of like the one COLA across the entire county. So I think we should consider, once we get farther in that process and figure out what theirs looks like, and you know, we move a little bit both directions, maybe move a little less to then still give that one countywide COLA. That's my personal take on that. Another couple sheets you have there is for potential new employees. If you turn to the EMA one first, he's asked for the consideration of a new full-time employee. On there, I've given you 2 projections. Salary grade 10, step 1, as well as step 4. The reason I did step 4 was at the request of Mr. Miller, but the reason he requested that is that's what the policy allows you to hire up to if you have that money. And that is a very valuable recruiting tool if you're not hiring somebody with little to no knowledge in the field, and you're taking somebody that already has a skill set that transitions well to that position. That allows you some flexibility as a hiring manager to recruit somebody, you know, that may have a head start on the position. You'll see their hourly rate, Social Security attached to that salary, retirement, life insurance, unemployment, workers' compensation. And what I did just as a placeholder, not to be too conservative or too aggressive, I put a placeholder of a single policy. That number could obviously shift. That number is not set in stone. It may be 0. They may need employee plus spouse, they may need employee children, and they may need family. So that number could shift significantly. But just put that single policy in as a placeholder, and then that last one is the most concerning one there, which is your total cost to add that new employee. So, any questions on that before I move on to the same from the accounting and budgeting office? Okay, I've done the same thing on mine. When I asked for the new position, I told you guys that I would strongly encourage 10, 11, or 12. So I've done the same thing, steps 1, step 4, on all 3 of those salary grades, structured the exact same way. And then that far right column, you see the total cost of the new employee. And then that other little section there at the bottom is the offset that you guys asked, you know, would I be willing to offset that with some of the part-time money that we currently possess? And of course, selfish worth it to have a full-time person in here to do so. So that is what those costs would actually be with that part-time money turned back in. Anybody have any questions on that sheet? All right, and then the last sheet, the green sheet I gave you guys, is just to make sure that we don't miss any of the new requests. So when we get to that point that you guys are ready to start making decisions, that's just the sheet to go down to make sure we don't skip anything, anybody's new requests. Employee for myself and Mr. Miller's on there. A mention of the salary scale revision for the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office / jail is on there. And then a couple items that Mr. Price asked for when he was in here for his software conversions are on there as well. So those are your new request sheets. And I think that's all the things I had to make sure I addressed with you. So I'm ready to start on whatever part of the budget you want to tackle first.
And first off, if it's okay with the committee, I think we'll just start with the general fund. And do remember that any motion that is made and passed today is only for calculation purposes. This is only for the draft. And once this one goes forward, we will, with the calculation process that Eric does, have a final number of what revenues need to fund it and what the expenditures will be. And then we can make further adjustments after that. We'll start in the general fund, since it's in the front of our book anyway, and we'll work through the first book. We can do contributions later. That's okay with everyone. My final question, Eric, and this is one that I've thought about for a while, and I don't know if it's even something that can be done. Is there a such thing as an employee study? Firm, somebody that comes through and does an audit of offices to see what type of employees are needed, what numbers of employees are needed for the work that they do. That just looks at raw numbers? Is there anything like that exists?
There's definitely something comparable to that. I'm not sure if they look at the assessment of the proper amount of employees needed. But when his name was Larry Russell, came in, I want to say it was in 2014, he did something very comparable to that. At the time, correct me if I'm wrong, but the sheriff's department did not want to be included, so he did not review the sheriff's department at that time. But he did review everybody else except for the highway department as well. So solid waste and everybody else in the general fund. He assessed their job duties, attempted to rank them all, did a pretty extensive review, compared them to other counties, and I think even some to the private sector, and established the pay scale that was not followed properly, which caused all the issues in the past. But as far as assessing number of employees for the workload, I don't know if that's part of his study or not. That was something we could ask and see if he's still doing something like that. But there's definitely a cost associated with such a study. Also, just one more thing, the timeline. That's not a bad idea or a bad approach by any means. But if we're gonna, for this fiscal year, it is almost too late in the game to have him do that. That'd be something we would need to start very soon for next fiscal year. That's something that people wanted to look at, is just a complete overhaul and a review of all of it. But that takes time. He meets with every office, every elected official, every department head. Quite a process.
All right, before we move into the general fund, does anybody have any thoughts? Anything that's burning on your mind before we get started? All right, seeing none. Where's the first page of the expenditure there?
First page of expenditures is page 8.
All right, we'll begin with general county operations, account number 51000, county commission. And how this will work is, someone will just need to make a motion to send it forward for calculation purposes. A second, we'll open it for discussion, just like a normal motion.
Make a motion to send the budget forward, Mr. Chair.
Bill, is there a second? Just county commission. Seconded. Any discussion on county commission line items? Miss Sarah, will you call the roll?
Nancy Barker,
Yes.
Jason Roach,
Yes.
John Gibson,
Yes.
Danny Ellis,
Yes.
Tom Kern,
Yes.
Joshua Gillum,
Yes.
Robbie Palmer.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carries.
All right, boards and committees, Board of Equalization.
Make a motion to send it over.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gillum, any discussion? None. Would anyone be opposed to doing, voice votes on some of the more, I guess, stringent ones? We can do roll calls, but it'll move the process for these that aren't gonna have any issues. Does anybody have any problems with voice votes? All right, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. And in the event that someone says nay, I'll ask for a roll call anyway, so we can record it. Beer board.
Make a motion to send it on.
Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Barker. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Budget and Finance Committee.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Palmer. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. That takes us to the county attorney, or, pardon me, county mayor. Demoted you this time.
We switch off from time to time, depending on who's calling today.
The county mayor,
This doesn't include yours, the county department.
No, county and budget is completely separate now. I'm in 52,100.
We separated those last year, Josh, just to make more plain with the money, actually.
Yeah.
so moved. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Gillum. We'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion.
Hey, Mark, on that,
Yeah.
the communication line item, the $500, is that just contracts or services that we use?
Under budgeted last year.
Okay.
When I broke it apart, it was just under budgeted.
Ms. Barker, did you have a question?
No.
Any further questions? All in favor of moving the county mayor's budget, forward for calculation purposes, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to the county attorney.
Make a motion to move it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gibson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving the county attorney's budget forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to the election commission.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Any discussion?
This overtime pay, is that just for the after elections or?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a 2-election year, and she actually has a pretty unique maintenance of effort, where you have to give her the same amount you gave her for an equal election year.
So we budgeted 23, 24 for 5,000.
For one budget, or excuse me, in one election year, and I didn't end up being that because she had, can't remember his name now, but that gentleman who vacated his position, she had like a special election for the replacement of him.
Scotty Campbell.
Yep, thank you. This is a regularly 2 election budget year.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of moving the election commission budget forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Register of Deeds.
I just want to point out one thing, if you don't mind. I want you to look at line 116 said she would want us to do when she had that, increase for her chief deputy. So I just want you to show that is reflected in the budget.
I'll make a motion, we send it on.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Second by Mr. Palmer, any discussion?
Do you remember what the, $4,700 into the rentals for copier, is that something we voted on? I remember voting on something. to do with
Yeah,
copiers.
mid-year, there was a mapping or plat machine that they
Okay.
formerly had that was outdated, and now they're renting it. And, yeah, so I think we're already committed to that via prior resolution, and now this is an increase in the budget to support it.
Yeah, I was thinking we voted on it. All right.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving it forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving to planning. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Palmer. Any discussion?
What contract, what government agencies, what contracts are under that line item? The contracts with government agencies?
It's First Tennessee Zone Administrator.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Budget book.
And they've a staff member to our planning issues.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of moving planning forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving to county buildings.
Supervisor and director, Mayor, how many do we have in that?
We have two in there.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. Any discussion?
Did we move an employee over there?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I think I missed the.
You may have-
before we discussed this,
Yeah.
there, so I, apologize for having to ask, but.
No, that's fine. That was a misunderstanding by myself when audit was advising me how to break up the staff from the county mayor, who belong in county budget, who belong in county buildings, and there was a comment made to not get too departmentalized as far as don't have a one-person HR or one-person purchasing, but I misunderstood them. Ms. Davis did belong more appropriately in county buildings, so yeah, that's not an increase. I mean, it's the appropriate step increases, but no one person is getting a massive raise. That's an employee being moved to a more appropriate budget.
You said, did you say where they moving now?
Accounting budget.
So that's an employee plus 2 step raises
Yeah.
for employees.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving this budget forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay.
Like I'm here, like I'm involved in this.
Moving on to other general administration.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Any discussion?
For the liability insurance, that increase there, is that just the rates going up that we're getting billed?
Yes, and that's actually an estimate, but last year they did a lot of reevaluations of the buildings. This year they did a deeper dive into the contents, and they're saying we were underinsured. And so if you did have a catastrophic event with a total loss, and you needed to rebuild the building and restock the building, the said contents to operate, this is my best stab at how much it's gonna increase. Now, if that actual comes in, we can adjust it accordingly. It'd be great if it was less, but unfortunately, if it comes in higher, you've gotta have your properties insured.
This is the one you talked to us about, where we said we could shop the price, but it's not may not be advantageous for us to do that because of the risk pool or something like
Well,
that.
because we're already in the pool, which is supposed to get us the most stabilized rates, because you're sharing with the other counties. No one county is, bad year is supposed to fluctuate the rates too awful much. Also another one where we're a little late in the game now to shop something that major.
Is there anything we can do different, on postal charges? I mean, something we can't send out, we don't have to send out, or?
We tried, I mean, that was a lot of the intent of the devices, but it hasn't been recognized. And then also another factor, that it's not just paper, being sent out to everybody, but it's also a lot of the cost on the license plates. When the license plates got changed out, mail fees went up astronomically, and I thought that would decrease the following year, but apparently right after they did the standard plate, and they turned it to handicap. So it's just, we've taken a beating on that, and then with postal rates increasing, we would love to not mail things. I try to get emails anytime I get a chance, but county has to conduct business, and a lot of times that's through postal service.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of moving other general administration forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Preservation of records. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving preservation of records forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. On to finance, accounting, and budgeting.
It does not include the new employees, right?
Not unless you want to. No, that's a later issue, so no, it's not currently in there. And you'll see that reduction, and that reduction is not me getting rid of somebody. That's what we talked about, is that just moving from one budget to the other.
So,
Thank you. Palmer, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Any questions or discussion about this budget? Would you like us to discuss your extra employee for this conversation, Eric?
If you wanna do them together separate, it's fine with me.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one question I have with that, on the handout, the part-time money to offset the cost of the new employee of $30,000.
Yes,
Am I missing that? Is that coming out of this budget?
it's not showing now,
It's not
but
showing now.
if you were to pass that, then yes, it would change the, 119 line would go up, as well as the associated benefits, and the 169 line would go down. So if I was fortunate enough to have that vote go in my favor, you would see those changes reflected in the second draft.
Okay, line 169 is what I was actually looking for, so that would actually decrease if we fund that to a full-time employee, and we'd be using the 30,000 or, what is that line that shows there, that towards the salary cost of said new employee at these rates.
Correct.
Gotcha.
I wish that I was fortunate enough to have a reserve that I could offer as an offset, but there's none dictated towards me. So the best I can do is offer some part-time money in favor of it. But I'd implore you to consider it. The staff has dwindled and the responsibilities have not. So we are very overwhelmed in this office, and my fear is that things will get missed, things will miss a deadline or slide through the cracks, and that's not the kind of county budget department I wanna run. But we gotta have appropriate staff to handle the workload. It's overwhelming.
Just wanna make one comment. I agree with what Eric says. I mean, I see them struggling every day to get things done around here. And you gotta think about if, God forbid, something happens that Eric's not here for a while, we've gotta have somebody trained to do what he does. You know, along with helping the workload. And, we would replace the part-time person. This part-time person helped a lot, with personnel issues and payroll and things like that, but really didn't dig into what Eric does, or what Evelyn does. You know, we
you say something could slip through the cracks? Could you speak to that one for just a second and what could be like costs associated with that? Kind of cause and effects type deal?
Absolutely. The county and budget department is basically nothing but one big deadline. I mean, that's all we do. We bounce from one deadline to the next. And, instead of being proactive and being able to do special projects that somebody may want me to participate in, all I'm trying to do is keep my head above water. And, quite often, if I was to miss any of those deadlines, several of them do have financial ramifications.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak on Eric's position a little bit by being in this office every time we have. We're in a post-disaster environment. Right now, we're in a post-disaster environment, just like we were after 9/11. The money flowing, that workload is all being absorbed in this office. We're after 9/11, while that money was absorbed at the district level. So the increased workload here that's coming from post-disaster environment is just unbelievable. Figure that goes like this. Just want to speak on that, of how we're seeing that different now than we did after 9/11.
Everybody loves the grants that are coming in, and a lot of them are very beneficial and allow us to complete projects that we wouldn't otherwise be able to complete. But there's a workload associated with all those, and there can be findings if you don't follow the compliance, follow the reporting requirements, and up to repayment of said grant if you're in violation of.
Did we not use some ARPA money to hire someone to help us manage those ARPA grants though?
To hire the ARPA grants, yes, but even then, even when you hire a consultant, we have CDP helping with ARPA funds, and we have First Nations Development District helping with several other grants. It doesn't remove this office from being involved.
Once it gets pushed through, once we get a grant, there's reporting, there's record keeping and all that, and that falls on us regardless of who's helping us get them.
They don't send a staff member down here to be involved in an office. I mean, somebody is still getting those things to them. And even with the regular day-to-day workload, you're overwhelmed. So, yes, I joke that I don't care much for grants sometimes because it's just an additional burden if we don't have anybody to handle. So, things like that, and you're bouncing from deadline to deadline, quite often things get pushed. And you try to pick them back up as fast as you can, but everything's a deadline.
Eric's position is very, very, very valuable in this office, and if you've kept up with the news lately, my friend Patty, who's the county mayor in Carter County, just had an incident with her finances that has really hurt them, and it was because people weren't paying attention to what was going on.
You can also have a trickle-down effect where it can affect your bond rating. And, as we're looking at potential bond issues for that bridge, that bond rating can have a massive financial impact. So, that old adage, sometimes you spend some money to save some money, I would think it's applicable here personally. I know I have a bias, but
Could we convert this part-time line item into the full-time? You'll take the entire $49,053?
you'd be cutting out an employee who is a tremendous value to the county. So that's why I was trying to offer the offset of the $30,000, because that leaves me enough money to keep her here. And, that person-
Technically, Evelyn is part-time.
And she is actually a former finance director herself, so the value that she adds is just tremendous. She would actually be a very integral piece in the training of this employee if I was fortunate enough to receive it.
So potentially, over time, that part-time money could go away, but you would need her at least in the interim to help train and to help continue doing some of the duties.
We want her here as long as she wants to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of y'all don't deal with her on a day-to-day basis, but she is absolutely phenomenal. And anybody that deals with her would tell you the same thing. The knowledge that she possesses is unreal.
So in regards to the actual budget itself, I know you've got some steps as well as some salary grades. Is that just to give us the options here? Is there like a range that you're looking for or what you would suggest in particular? Like what,
Yeah, it's a best case, then a little less, and then probably the lowest I would think would be acceptable to man this person would be a degreed individual or have several years of relevant work experience. I don't think that you can ask somebody to come over with that skill set and offer them any less than what I presented you there.
So what kind of degree would you be looking for in accounting and finance degree?
Prefer, yeah, anything majority.
So why do they
Finance.
need to be trained? If they have a degree, why would they need to be trained?
So I'll tell you myself personally, I've got an associate's from Washington State and a bachelor's from UTSU, both in accounting and finance. And then, governmental accounting is its own unique niche. I walked in the door and I could speak the language. I was not ready to assume the position. If it would not have been for Ms. Evelyn, we would have had problems. So even though you have the background knowledge, basically just explaining that you're somebody worth the training, but they still need on-the-job training. Not to bore you with too much technical accounting mumbo jumbo, but you've got, the cash basis of accounting, and you've got the accrual basis, and that's the majority of what you learn in your college education. And what you get about 3 credit hours on is modified accrual, which is where we live. So, of your 120 credit hour degree, you're gonna spend 3 hours talking about government. So, you need on-the-job training.
So if someone has a degree and they come to work for you, and please understand, I'm looking at dollars and cents, I'm not looking at people, that's the only real job that I have as a candidate today, is just look at dollars and cents, so.
It's finance, I can respect that.
I know she's amazing, I don't know that I've met her, but I know, I've heard you talk about her enough, and I feel like I know her. But could you just not be responsible for training that new person if it's gonna be a full-time position that you're gonna have? And alleviate those part-time funds?
I'm not going to agree, I mean, I can't tell you what to do, but I'm not gonna agree to cut somebody out of their job. She has been a tremendous asset to the county, and she deserves to go out on her own terms when she is ready. We historically not cut out people's positions, but I'd be willing to give up all part-time money except her position.
But if you're looking at full-time equivalency, if you're looking at an FTE for staff members of your office, we're not really cutting a position, we're actually adding half a position on top of what you already have.
By the numbers, yes, but in reality, that person is no longer employed. And she cannot assume that position because she is our return to work, so she's limited in hours she can work by TCRS. Also, she doesn't want a full-time position, but even if she did, she wouldn't be eligible because she's a return to work employee, limited in how she can work by TCRS.
And while I guess I see that point, she's limited in what she can do. She's retired, she's drawing her TCRS. It shouldn't put us in a position where we're spending more money to keep a part-time position and add a full-time position on top of that. You see where I'm coming from?
I do, but I can keep her busy and I can keep this person busy as well.
I agree with Eric. I think Evelyn has her certain tasks to do. She doesn't. I just need to mention, if you all haven't met Evelyn, she's not a come to the party kind of girl. She is deaf, and we can talk to her. But in that, with that in mind, she is nose to the grindstone the whole time she's here. She's got no interest in talking to anybody, drama, any kind of that. She doesn't take telephone calls. She works and works hard the whole time she's here.
Yeah, and like I say, it's not a matter of her, I'm sure she's fantastic. I'd love to figure out a way to keep, I'd love to figure out how to give you, to use a cliche, your cake and eat it too. Unfortunately, we're not in giving you your cake and eat it too kind of financial situation right now.
That's why I'm trying to lower the cost the best I can. You're talking about a full-time employee for a difference of 20 to 5 there at the local part of the scale. To have a degree person in the finance department to help keep us from having any penalties and consequences for any missed deadlines, I know I have a bias, but I think it's money well spent.
Eric, whenever that time comes, she decides, whenever she leaves on her terms, would you be willing to roll all that back over into the position?
Most likely, I mean,
Because she's essentially leaving, opening up a position.
I think there could still be advantages of having an additional part-time employee, but if that was the deal breaker from having this position or not, then yes.
So what if we made an amendment of some sort to your budget to say that part-time personnel would be in place, I don't know, for the next fiscal year, and wait and see what she wants to do?
And reassess that
And
on her
reassess it.
desire,
Yeah.
I'd be all right with that.
That'd be fine.
because if that's what the committee wants to do, Mr. Palmer, you know, I want something that says in the budget that this is not gonna be an ongoing thing. Like, if we're going to pull that money back and help refund the full-time position, I mean, I'd like for the budget, I'd like for it to be noted somewhere in a motion or a resolution, so that we can make sure we're sticking to it.
So you're gonna put like an asterisk at the bottom of this page?
You know, I would think so,
Okay.
but that's up to the committee, that's my suggestion.
And then it's you know, we gotta remember too, we want to do the right thing. I think this would be wise just to say, look, this is only your position, I mean, essentially we're saying this position is filled the next fiscal year when we reevaluate, there's no promises that this position will be available. I mean, that's essentially what we'd be doing.
Well, basically, you lost a part-time employee, kind of in financial, when the lady went out to the highway department, is that correct?
We did, yes.
So one of these, you're basically replacing that part-time employee, and then when Martha left, you lost another part-time employee. So
Correct.
you're bringing on one new employee, where you've already lost two.
Correct.
At a higher pay grade, with the understanding that.
With full-time hours, yeah. But yes, that is correct, so that's why I say that the office is struggling, I mean, it's shrinking and the workload is not. If the workload was shrinking, we'd be fine, but I have a 4-person department. In part-time, so 4.5-person department. There's not a dollar that goes to the county that we don't touch in some form or fashion.
If I were you all, I'd look at this new full-time position as more or less an insurance policy. I mean, it's gonna be a second set of eyes for Eric. We don't want to get in a financial mess. And like I said, if Eric has to be out for any length of time, we need somebody in that position. And I wouldn't think a part-time person would be able to do Eric's job while he's out.
And another thing I mentioned to you in the past is I'm starting to run into issues with compliance on my comp time hours.
That's what I was getting ready to ask, was this
It absolutely would, comp time only matters on a June 30th basis, but right now I'm out of compliance. And being in budget season, I don't have any pathway to get back under. So that would be a great help for me as well, because right now if I take any time off, I make it all back up, trying to catch back up. The workload isn't such that I can go away and take a vacation, come back and pick up somewhere else. All that's still sitting there waiting on. My job's supposed to be Monday, Friday, 8 to 4, but that's never in reality what it actually is.
All right, so procedurally, how this would probably need to work is we have finance and accounting budgets on, the finance and accounting budget on the floor. We would need to amend it to include that position for calculation purposes. Vote on that amendment, and then we need to adopt it as amended to move forward for calculation. So I'll leave that to the committee. And by the way, just as I charged you guys with the budget hearing, understand that if one penny generates $122,222, 30,000 of that, you're looking at roughly 25% or ish. That's about 1/4 of a penny that we need to find somewhere in order to fund what he's asking. It's 1/4 of a penny, so keep that in mind as we add these additions. So would anyone like to move to amend to add that for calculation purposes moving forward?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Mr. Palmer, thank you.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gibson. Now we're on the amendment to add the request for a full-time position with finance and accounting at a cost of $30,000.
But
Hold on, you're gonna offset by 30.
Yeah, I'm offsetting by 30. I need a little more direction on which tier
You're right.
that you guys are tentatively approving.
Mr. Palmer, can I go back and change, and ask you to look at cost of new employee, salary grade 10, step 1, salary grade 10, step 4, where would you like to suggest that cost? Because 28,535 is the lowest one.
I would think 10 step 1, but Eric, you know your position.
Let me get that amendment on the floor, so let's just clarify that is 10 salary grade 10, step 1 with the amendment. Is the committee okay with me doing it that way?
I wouldn't limit it to step one,
Okay.
because
Hold on a
it
second, I need to get a
depends on who
second.
you
Let
hire.
me get a second real quick.
Okay.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Okay, so, you're saying you wouldn't limit it to step 1?
If I were this committee, I would pick a salary grade, but not a step, because it's just gonna depend on who is interested in the position.
Well,
If it's somebody basically brand new, will be step one. If it's somebody that can hit the ground running, it's gonna be step
If
two.
you did step 10 and did not specify a step, would that give you discretion between the two rates of pay there?
Yes, we can't go higher than 4 because that's as high
So,
as the
so if
person
you, so
possible.
if you did just the salary grade, so if the motion was to accept it with that salary grade 10, with no step, then that would be kind of or even for budget purposes, would you wanna put in step 4 just at your highest amount and then work?
Essentially, I have to, because that policy reads, the hiring department head or official has the discretion to go to step 4, budget allowing. Well, it's a new position, so my budget doesn't have any access. So the only way that I would have that discretion is to budget for the 10-4.
So why grade 10 and not grade 9?
I think 10 is about the floor you could require somebody to have a finance degree and expect them to come work with the county. I mean,
Yes.
in the private sector, they're already gonna make significantly more. That's why I presented 10, 11, and 12. I mean, I was trying to look at that. I mean, obviously, I prefer 12. The people I could recruit with that would be significantly higher, the pool of people that'd be interested. You start taking down to a 9, I don't know that a lot of people will even apply.
Do you think you can get somebody with a 10? I mean, I know with accounting and finance degree, like I said, the private sector job roles, that's probably gonna be a stretch, I would think.
I think it's going to be a struggle, but I mean, I think the right person, maybe, somebody wants to stay close to home. Yes, I think that would make you available potentially, but that is the concern.
we're gonna be right, Eric. I'm assuming the second, step 10, or grade 10, step 1 and 4, I guess that'd be 11, right? On our handout you gave us.
I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but
Down here
I-
at the bottom, where part-time rate to offset costs.
that same 30,000 is being applied, and it's in one of those costs up there at the top. So if you go 10 to step 1, that's the difference to fund. If you go 10 to step 4, the 34,817 is the difference to
I know
fund.
that one thing is, I get that second group of step.
Oh, yes, those will be 11s. Yes, Rob, correct. I need that person to watch over me.
Okay, so if we need to further clarify, the way that we did that amendment, or the way that I suggested the amendment, was to say grade 10, step 1. Would the committee be okay with just, and Robbie, would you be okay with pulling step 1 out and just leaving it new employee at salary grade 10?
Yeah, I'll be okay with that.
John, you seconded that, is that okay with you? Is the committee okay with just doing it that way? Okay. All right, so we're on the amendment to the budget, and that is to add in 1 new full-time employee at salary grade 10 for the budget, or department for the finance and accounting and the budgeting office. For the calculation purposes for the next fiscal year. Miss Sarah, will you call the roll, please?
Do we need an amount, so Eric, do we need a dollar amount?
With step 10, I'm gonna, salary grade 10, I'm gonna use step 4, so
Step
we have the full
Okay.
flexibility.
So I can include step 4 in the motion?
No,
Well, it's on Mr. Palmer, Mr. Gibson.
no, you'll just in the amendment, will be salary grade 10,
Okay.
and then when Eric does
We're not
it
gonna
for
guarantee that person.
calculation purposes, we're gonna look at 4.
Just wanted to make
But
sure.
that doesn't have to be in
All right.
Also, the department head per policy has discretion to hire it. as
Yeah.
a-
Yeah.
Right, doesn't mean that you guarantee you get it, I mean, it can be 1, 2, 3, or 4.
That's any department.
With 30,000, with being offset by 30,000.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Miss Sarah, will you call the roll now, please?
Joshua Gillum,
No,
Robbie Palmer,
Yes.
Danny Ellis,
No,
John Gibson,
Yes.
Nancy Barker,
Yes.
Jason Roach,
Yes.
5 yes, 2 no, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to,
I guess that'll stay on.
oh, I'm sorry, we gotta do the whole budget now. Finance and County budget, thank you, John. Now we'll do a roll call on the whole finance and county budget. Budget.
Jason Roach,
Yes.
Joshua Gillum,
Yes.
Paul Hearn,
Yes.
John Gibson,
Yes.
Nancy Barker,
Yes.
Danny Ellis,
Yes.
and Robbie Palmer.
Yes.
7 yes, motion carries.
All right, moving on to the property assessor's office.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Walker. Any discussion or question?
the biggest increase that's shown on this one is just the minus medical insurance, and that's just gonna be a fixed cost that we're not gonna do nothing with.
I remember why he saw a reduction in the deputy pay.
Changes that. Just get a more expensive employee to a newer employee. It's not often you see that, but it does happen sometimes.
Yeah.
Eric, can you help me understand something? Yeah.
It is a backup. It's been fixed in second graph already.
Okay. So 518, you talking about on, line item 523000201?
On 201?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, sorry. What's your question on 201?
Look, estimated, hold on a minute. Never mind, I see it, never mind.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion, questions? All in favor of moving the property assessor's office budget forward for calculation purposes, let me know by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried. The reappraisal program.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor of moving the reappraisal program forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Hey, Derek. Just for curiosity's sake, do you happen to have a number on the increase in medical insurance, what they have done to this budget?
As a whole, no. On individual policy, what we have, the way our insurance year runs is November through October. So you have 4 months at the current rate, and then you've got 8 months with a 12% increase. That is an estimate.
I didn't know if you had an exact number. Curiosity of just how much it increased the budget by.
No, but it is a significant driver of cost in our budget.
Or is that it, Mr.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
County trustee's office.
So for example, in this one, you'll see a decrease. So that's not because the cost went down, it's a change in policies.
Make a motion to send this on.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Palmer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving the county trustee's office forward, let me know by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. County clerk's office.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. All in favor of moving the county clerk's office So we've already had this discussion about that extra position that she's going to hire.
Not reflected in this budget.
Do we need to do something to reflect it in this budget now?
It will be in the second draft now, just because what the full commission did in April.
So we don't need to touch
But
it.
at the time when I prepared this, it was purely speculation.
So we don't need to do anything.
No, I'm gonna already change it.
Alright. All in favor of moving the county clerk's office forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Administration of Justice Circuit Court.
Make a motion to move this forward.
Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Alves. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving Administration of Justice, Circuit Court, rather, forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to Criminal Court. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Gibson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving to General Sessions Court.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Barker. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving General Sessions Court forward for calculation, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Drug Court.
Make a motion to move it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Gillum. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Alves. Any discussion?
What was the other charges? What did that include again? Line 599.
So typically with that grant structure, her 599 is in a category of grant called specific assistance to individuals.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of moving drug court, the drug court budget forward for calculation, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. On the Chancery Court, and there is a new request in Chancery Court.
Correct. Two, actually. He asked for a software for LGC for $5,440, and then software for eGov for $5,600. If I understood him correctly, he did mention that there was a possibility that the eGov one may not be necessary. I believe his comment was he had spoken with Mr. Shanks, and they thought they had possibly discovered a way for that not to be necessary. But he was trying to convert, and I think this is kind of one of those, you spend a little now and in the future, the annual maintenance agreements were less, if I remember his presentation properly.
So remind me, Eric, is that already factored into this one?
It is not. It will be if you all tell me to include it, but no, it is not in this first draft.
So,
So on your green sheet, I've got it listed as two separate requests.
So that's the 13,800 you asked for, correct?
I think it comes to 1140 if my math's working.
You said something about a tax software too, for 8,000. Is that something?
He threw out a lot of numbers, but I think the request was just for the 5440 and the 5600. I think some of the other figures he was talking was how he calculated this 334 line, if I'm not mistaken.
Sarah, did we get this one before already?
No.
I don't think so.
Can we have a motion to move Chancery Court forward?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gibson. Okay, it's on the floor, and so we can discuss if we want to include that new request.
I've got them listed separately, but it was my understanding it was kind of a package deal.
I make a motion to amend the budget to include the request of $11,040 for the two software programs.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
So,
Thank you, Ms. Barker. Any further discussion on the amendment?
Question on my
this was one time, this was, for the conversion.
Gotcha.
The LGC, I think he'd be picking them up and dropping, the e-gov, but this was the cost to make that happen.
All right, we call roll on the amendment, Sarah?
Tom Kern,
Yes.
Jason Roach,
Yes.
Robbie Palmer,
Yes.
Joshua Gillum,
Yes.
John Gibson,
Yes.
Danny Elmer,
Yes.
Nancy Barker,
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you, so we're back on Chancery Court as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to juvenile court.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barker. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving juvenile court forward, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, so, we're getting into courtroom security, but as is stated in the bracket there, Eric, the deputies are not funded from the sheriff's office budget, it's funded from litigation taxes and courtroom security reserves.
Partially funded. That wasn't fully funded until we, expanded the, corporate security program into additional officers, now it's partially funded.
So do we need to hold off on this when we discuss the whole sheriff's office as a group?
Per the green sheet, I mean, this would be a perfect time to start discussing, what you all wanna see on the second draft for the revised, or the request for the revision of the salary scales.
Okay, so when we discussed, that the other day, there was some talk that you guys were working on a different version, and you might want to hold off on that?
We don't have anything finalized, there were some preliminary discussions with myself and the sheriff's department about trying to see if we could come up with some type of, reduced cost, but still satisfy their desire to be able to, go out and hire and retain said employees. So, it's in its very early stages, but, me and Mr. Allen have been working on that and see if we can hash something out, so, maybe a motion for us to present what we can work out at the time where we reveal the second draft.
How do you feel about that, Sheriff? Or Mr. Allen?
I want to say it's opportunity to start with.
Stay with the way the percentage started, with the pay scale, using the county pay scale, also sliding over, beginning at, pay grade 8 or 9? 8. All right. Give us a second to restate that. So we can go ahead and have a motion. looks like we'll be working with, salaries for the sheriff's office in 53920 and in 54110. We could group those together, and that way it would hit both of them.
It also affects 54210.
54210, okay, yeah, I see correction. So do you all wanna group those together so that we can discuss it as it applies to all three sections?
Yes.
Alright, so I'll entertain motions to group 53920, 54110, and 54200.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Alright, so that, puts pretty much all the sheriff's department's budget on the floor for discussion. So what he's presented to us is a move to the county pay scale. Beginning at step 8, including a step between 9 and 10 with 9.5, including a step between 10 and 11 at 10.5. Alright, so, we can make a motion to amend to put them on this pay scale in order to discuss it. And then we'll just have to vote on it and see how we move forward, so it's kind of clear for me now.
Okay, Chief Allen, Sheriff. So one question I was asked by a citizen, recently is, do you, their comment, it wasn't really a question, was that the sheriff's department may be top heavy, right? That we have too many people at the top levels of management and, and not enough in the field. What is your comments on that?
Grace, it
I'm sorry.
is okay, Grace, if I hear.
Yes, sir.
Fine,
Please
thank
do.
you.
Well, actually, this has been for many, many years. I know you've done comparisons of different sheriff's offices. And what you see is I have a lieutenant over every division. That lieutenant position, if you look at other agencies, the people that does their divisions, they're captains and majors. So the way this has been structured for a long time is, you know, the sergeant on shift, corporal, and you have a lieutenant that's over that division, and a chief deputy that's over all of them. So that is basic, sample. But when you compare it to other agencies, like Washington County, Southern County, they got majors, they got captains, they got chief deputies of one division. So we're not top heavy, we're just structured and organized to keep things simple and professional.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Figure, I don't know, you may not have done that math, we may have. Do you know what percentage increase this is from their current pay scale?
I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to have this on the floor for discussion.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Kern.
So one question I have, how would this funding, how would this, pay scale affect line 170, which is the school resource officer? It says those are paid by a state grant. Would those continue to be paid by a state grant at that point?
Mr. Chairman, is it okay if I make a couple comments?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
The reason I had this retention salary request is for that very fact. I told you, you know, in prior meetings, that in the last 2 years, 71 people had left me. 61 of those people had 5 years or more of professional experience. Had 34 people leave me problem. If you think about it, I'm 10 positions down right now. I've already lost 9 this year. Why I'm trying to retain officers, for the simple fact is I'm not getting any applications. I'm trying to keep what I have now. There's no interest. The world, our country, our county's not getting any better. We have to have people to protect our children, our schools, our citizens, our churches, our inmates. If we don't protect our inmates, we can be civilly liable. The county can be civilly liable. We gotta protect the officers, the citizens. If this continues and this paying this money out and not getting nothing in return, like I done told you, it's over $2 million, we're gonna pay that money out. But if you instill this in the employees that's there now, and hopefully we can retain them, if you don't, down the road in a couple of years, you keep losing them and not retain them, it's gonna get to where my patrol division's gonna have to go just on emergency calls only. I'm not gonna be able to have officers in every school. We may have the money to put officers in school, but we may have a man or woman put in that school. And that is gonna multiply and jeopardize the safety and well-being of Hawkins County citizens. You can see it coming. New positions down now, already lost 34 this year. I need to keep people, professional people, out here protecting all of you all, our schools, our citizens, our county. We need to have a safe county.
Is the RSO officers, are their pay scale, is that mandated by the state or is that your discretion?
It's what my budget can afford to be paid for. All the states giving us that money. Will we pay them $50,000 or $75,000? The states come up with that money to pay for that SRO. At this time, I have an SRO in every school, and I've told this commission before. Sometimes I've had as many as 3 schools without protection, and that scares me. I don't know about you all. Like I said before, you're a principal. We first put SROs in schools to protect the students, the staff from outside. Now, a lot of problems on the inside with the students, the teachers, the student families. We won't be able to protect our schools, our students, protect our citizens. We have a duty, I have a duty to protect you all. I need people to do it, I can't do it alone. You're gonna pay the money out, whether we pay them out to go somewhere else, or you invest in them, or just keep them in training, and make them best they can be and retire. Like I said, you don't have to, since I've been officer retired. And I can tell you, when I retire in 860 some days, there's gonna be 4 or 5 go with me, so there's gonna be some others too.
Anyone else have any questions for the sheriff? Sheriff, I wanna say a couple things. I realize y'all are understaffed, and, you and I have had a lot of conversations that we need to make sure that you're able to complete all of the requirements that TCA gives to you as a county sheriff, so that you can meet those statutory requirements with your staffing. Our job as commissioner is to resource you with money to be able to do that, which is why I asked you that question the other day, because the question is, can you as a sheriff meet all statutory requirements to protect the citizens as listed by the Tennessee Code annotated? And you said, well, we're doing the best we can.
But I'm not. I read that statute this morning.
So,
We did it at 3:20, I believe.
so what you're saying is you are not able to meet all those conditions. So it's our job to resource you to do that. I said in budget hearings, two things. Number one, it's hard for us to say that you hear folks say blue lives matter and have the thin blue line stickers on their cars, and it's hard for us to be able to say those things and not back it up with action. Secondly, I have a parent at my school that's a young jailer, young corrections officer. She has, I think, 4 children. I talked to her the other day and asked her how she liked her job. By the way, 6 months in, she applied to be a corporal. And that says something, that a 6-month jailer, there's a position open to be a corporal that she applied for, which I hope that she had gotten, but I hope she also had the experience to do the duties of the job. She didn't, but nonetheless, we have a lot of our officers that are mowing yards, delivering pieces, working at other sheriffs or other city police departments as part-time personnel. We got a lot of folks trying to find other revenue to survive so that they can continue to work for the sheriff's office. So I do think we need to address the pay scale. And I like the pay scale that you've given, except that I think we need to address it for post-certified officers and post-certified positions. I think that if we're talking about allocating this amount of money to address your needs, those post-certified positions are the needs that you have the most right now. And I want to address those, and I would love to include those as calculated. I'm not going to support the entire sheriff's department going in for the pay scale that you've got. I know corrections is a tough position for you all, and I'll share I've already talked to the sheriff and the chief deputy. I'm not giving you any surprises because I've already told you. In the meeting that I had with the administration at the sheriff's office, they told me that their officers have nothing to work for. And I agree with that. Because once you hit 8 years, you're topped out, and that's it. We talked about the amount of risk that police officers take. They carry a firearm, they get shot at. They are dealing with the worst parts of our society, so the risk is higher. Therefore, the pay should equal the risk to an extent. I believe that those jailers, they're essential to what we need in this community. Obviously, we got to be able to run that jail. What I would like to see is for us to get back to a position where jailers are being hired to come out onto the road to work toward those positions. The second reason I say that is because the post certification, I believe, takes 10 weeks. And remind me what the certification is for a jailer.
It's 40 hours.
And
40 hours and 60 hours a year.
what's the name of that certification?
TCI.
TCI.
Tennessee Correctional Institute.
So it's, for me, in my world, it's the difference in an associate's degree or a certification and a bachelor's degree almost. It's kind of like that for me. When you've made the effort to go to the training to do 10 weeks for police academy, you've invested the money. Some of them have paid your own way through. Some of them have been paid for by you guys, I understand. But if we're looking at trying to address your problem, we're doing it reasonably moving forward because it's going to hit us hard. It's going to be a big cost. Personally, I am in favor of addressing your post-certified positions only and not looking at putting your entire sheriff's department on the pay scale as it is, as you presented it today. So that's my desire.
Just I guess it's for information, the majority of my employees came from the jail. Because that's where I want them to start, because that's where they learn who they're gonna deal with on the streets. That's where the ones that go to the academy came out of jail after they paid their dues or something, they were able to. And you've seen yourself now, in the last couple of weeks, I've got employees in there. You and I both know they're not gonna make it in that environment. Josh, you've been there, they're not gonna make our environment, because
address in the last 3 years, you all have received a 13% cost of living. I think it's about 3 years that we did countywide. Is that accurate? 2 or 3?
Last year was 4, the year preceding that was 9, and I don't know that there was one the year preceding that.
So the last 2 years.
2 years,
So
yeah.
13% cost of living. Which, by the way, those on Social Security have received a 20.7% cost of living over the last 5 years. So just keep that in mind. So Chief Deputy Allen, if I had been a jailer under the old pay scale, then I was bumped up to be on the patrol officer's pay scale, plus the 13% cost of living on top of that, what would be the total percentage of increase that I would receive as a jailer?
I'd have to do the math on it, but I understand your question, sir, is that every year sheriff has asked for, pay raises for the staff. Every year it gets slashed and cut. We're just trying to get competitive with everyone else. I can do the math with you, I got to go back and pull some budget books from 5 years ago.
I believe they were what, weren't they like $13 or $14 an hour?
I was thinking like 12, but now I thought it was like 12, 18, something like that. Now, that's in memory, so please don't hold me to that exact number.
So if, let's just say it was 13, last year they jumped up $4 an hour for a first year jailer.
This, to answer your question, with that, right now, I believe the sheriff has probably got 4 employees that is ready to go to the academy. I mean, absolutely, they could go boots on the ground, ready to go. You cannot afford to take them out of corrections to send them to the academy. So to answer your question, I respect the theory that you have behind it, but if we don't have the staff inside of the correction to be able to fuel the patrol side of it, it's never going to work.
I guess the last thing I'll say, I've talked way too much on this. It needs to be fixed. Your officers need to have your post-certified officers, in my opinion, we need to address that, because you can't hire people and you need to be able to hire officers. I agree with that. The last thing that I guess I would say is that, if you can get your pay for your officers competitive with surrounding counties, the way that it used to work is that young men and young women that wanted to be police officers in Hawkins County would be hired on and pay their dues in the jail. That's where they went. They got trained in the ways of the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office by working in corrections. And then you promoted from there, and that was their way to get promoted. That was their way to work up. Working into a patrol car and working into a post-certified position was a step up for them. And I believe it worked well. That's my opinion. I'm not also in your office, but I'd like to see that you are able to hire high-quality corrections officers that want to work their way out to patrol, or want to work their way into SRO, or wherever that might be. So that's my comments, and I'll ask if anybody else has anything.
Yeah, one thing I want to add here with that is how many positions, with the TCI and the post, how many positions is like a needs, like how many positions do y'all have opens in the jail right now?
I've got 7 openings in the jail right now.
How many road officer positions?
2 positions on the road, excuse me, and 1 in court security.
Because Mr. Rich, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you in the sense of the promoting within, and kind of get that commitment from the employees and the development from the employees that kind of put that in and promote that, but also looking at it from a needs basis and liabilities. The jail's a big liability, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's, if you're gonna put your newest, youngest, I mean, to me, that's a liability of you're just looking at risk of what you could see lawsuit wise and things of that nature. And yeah, I feel like that position needs to be compensated too. And again, I understand what you're saying in regards of kind of looking at associates, bachelors and type deal, but just from what we're tasked with funding to provide the needs of the people of the county, you know, the jail is a big liability. And, you know, I just want to put that footnote up there. You know, when we're looking at those paid positions, the liability that you're entrusting somebody with at that pay rate that they're getting paid currently, or even the 12, 13, where we're right now, that's still, that's a low rate of pay for high risk and liability.
especially when they can leave me to go to Walmart and get $2 more an hour.
Yes, sir.
Thought that I'd have is that we've talked about this every budget year. Nothing seems to be getting done. We're always talking about losing deputies rather than hiring deputies. Now, let's just say if I'm a deputy with another group, I'm not interested to come to Hawkins County to go to the jail. So, I think it's time we look at paying deputies and not worrying about what other deputies make. We need to fix our own problem. And I think that I'm just fed up with the idea that every time we're losing, I think it's time we take a look at stabilizing what we've got, and as he says, quit kicking the can down the road. I know it's going to be expensive, but I'd like to be telling you anything that's not expensive when it comes to security and stuff of that nature. So, I'd just like to see us take a hard look at this and keep deputies that we have.
Mr. Chairman. This is really tough. I mean, this is a pretty tough position as you're sitting on this commission. I mean, for me, the $1.8 million, that's a large price tag. And the hard thing is that we all know, sitting here, it's easy to sell paying officers more. I don't think that I have a constituent one that would say, no, we don't need to pay police officers more. Most of them agree. Problem comes is when we discuss who has to pay for it, right? That everybody gets upset about that. And I think as we work through this, not only this part of the budget, but all of it, we have to remember that somebody has to pay for these things. On the flip side of that, as I said the other day, we're going to end up paying the salaries that are in front of us eventually. It's what the market is dictating. And to be clear, that the thing that I like about what the sheriff has presented is that it shows that what we currently are paying is not a market rate to fill a position. And that's not an emotional argument. That's not, it's a simple fact. If you are advertising to hire for a position and you're not getting applicants, or if you're getting applicants and they're staying short amounts of time, the pay is inadequate or the environment is bad or a mixture of both. Right? That's just, in my experience in hiring folks, that's the truth. So I think the fact is our pay rates are not adequate. How we handle that, and Mr. Chairman, if I could ask you a couple questions what you were saying, because I thought it was an interesting conversation to have. So it'd be to you and the sheriff, I guess, how many post-certified positions versus non-certified positions? How does that work out? Can you be certified and work in jail?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, I guess, how much, do we have any idea how many non-certified employees that we would have?
Now, which certified are you talking about? Post-certified or TCI certified?
Well, I have no clue.
Post-certified is your officers that carries guns. Your TCI are inside the jail. A couple of them can be post-certified and be in the jail, they just can't carry the weapon.
So were you, Mr. Chairman, were you, referring to those who were able to carry a weapon? We would increase pay significantly for those folks and maybe not so much for those who just work inside the jail.
So that, to clarify, yes.
Okay.
And when I originally said that to the sheriff, I said one thing, but I meant another. I did say post-certified personnel, but what I mean is post-certified positions. So I'm in favor of addressing those positions that require a post-certified officer to fill. So you will have some post-certified officers in the jail. I don't think that they would need to make the same that a patrol officer would make who's post-certified unless they are in a post-certified position. I think then they would take a raise or promotion out to the road, or wherever that post-certified position would be.
Okay.
Well, I haven't been fully staffed on the road for a long time. So it's impossible to have somebody post-certified in the jail right now. I'm too down on the road.
Well, and
I got
honestly,
2 or 3 on light duty on the patrol too.
you've got post-certified officers filling in the jail when you don't have enough.
Yeah, yeah.
I understand that.
We hadn't even mentioned, I think, 130,000 we pay out in overtime out of my budget this year to fill in for the jail. That's why I came to the commission in 2011 and asked for raises, because I seen this was coming. That's why I'm saying now, that if we don't get something done now, in a couple of years, this county is gonna be hurting.
Is that all your questions?
Sheriff, if this were to get approved, you're looking at 1.8 million. Would you be willing to forego a cost of living adjustment? Cause we're looking at $6 for, we're looking at potential, you're getting pretty good price jump.
You talking about cost of living this year?
If we were to approve these salary, hourly wage increase, would you be willing to forego just a cost of living adjustment this year for your department?
I think that is a pay raise and a cost of living together.
So you're saying this proposed, I'm sorry, this would include your COLA for the year?
I would separate the 2 pay scales if you did that.
Yeah, we'll separate that. You're talking about doing patrol, but you're not talking about doing corrections, so I will separate it.
I was going by what you presented, what you're asking for right here.
Are you saying like, moving to this pay scale,
Yes.
right, would be one action?
Yeah.
And then the next action is when we apply a countywide COLA,
Yes.
would they expect the COLA added to this pay scale?
I don't think we discussed that.
Well, if I may, it's doable, but it creates a complication, because what they're essentially saying they're doing is coming onto our pay scale. Well, if you give a COLA to some of the pay scale and not some of the rest, they're really not on our pay scale, and you're creating still a sheriff's department pay scale within our pay scale. Because, as we discussed, the 3 pay scales, which might go to 2 as we get to the health department conversation, but the 1820 and the 2080 are the same scale. All the rates of pay are the same. It's just one scale has more annual salary because they work more hours. But if you give a COLA to one piece and not the other piece, I still have to move this scale with the COLA for solid waste. So you'll have a 2080 solid waste scale, you'll have a 2080 sheriff's department scale. If one receives a COLA and the other doesn't. I'm not saying you can't do that, but you're not eliminating a pay scale. You're still gonna have them on a sheriff's department pay scale that does not match my other 2080 hour scale.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
and I am definitely not against more pay for deputies, et cetera. But I don't know how much attention was paid to our pay scale when this one was developed. You're gonna have civilian jobs like secretaries, cooks, et cetera, making way more than their counterparts on the regular scale. I don't think there was any kind of a look at that.
Which
If
was
you're gonna do this, you're gonna end up with a bunch of office holders saying, we're gonna move that scale.
So, and that therein is my point. That's why I want to address the post-certified officer positions, but the others, in order, and it's not necessarily about, anything other than dollars and cents for me. I wanna save what we can save, but I also understand that, and while your secretaries, I know they're making jobs, I know your secretaries, at least some of them pretty well. I do think that we need to look specifically at those officers who are going out in patrol cars and putting their lives on the line on a daily basis. Those are the ones I'm interested in trying to address.
That's a pretty good way to look at it. And if we go with this totally across the board, and what you're saying is, let's take a different look at it. But if we go with this totally across the board, it's not gonna be a ripple effect with the rest of the office holders. It's gonna be a tidal wave. And you're gonna end up spending way more adjusting that other scale to look at this one, to mirror this one. You're talking about 1.8, you're probably looking at another, what, Eric, 500,000, 600,000?
It could very easily grow it that way.
I ask a question,
Yes, sir.
is, the position, is that on pay scale 1, 2, or 3 that y'all discussed earlier about the personnel for the mayor's office? Which
Pay scale one.
Pay scale 1?
Yes.
So to answer that question, to move the 3 positions that you're in question is still less than the position that would do have the same duties. So,
It's not the secretary's position in his budget, so that is a position that would require a degree in accounting and finance.
I'm just saying, but ours is significantly less than that. Ours is 38,000 and this was 44,000.
Because he
On,
was,
on step one.
To go to step 8, starting out would be 38,293.
Salary grade eight. Salary grade eight. When you say steps, that's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So salary.
You're exactly right.
What grade are you?
And this is for the step 1 salary grade 8 is 44,254.
Our secretaries are not on grade eight.
Correct.
Y'all just,
No.
not,
I have written down that there's 3 positions in the secretary. I have in the secretary category. Is that correct?
That's about 3 secretaries.
3 secretaries.
So that's my cooks, just to clarify, the cooks are TCI certified and they have to be around anyway.
So,
I can tell you that we've got a secretary here, her position would be that grade level, that's not making $38,000.
right, yeah, I understand.
But if they see this come into effect, it's gonna be, people be leaving, people be, banging on the door for an increase in their salary level too, so.
So we focus on the post-certified, like Jason's saying, that would eliminate that problem.
I think the danger in that is, the guys, at one time, I thought, actually, I think it was during the budget year last year, I can't remember, when it came up, but I was making the same argument that the guys that are in a car out running calls and whatnot, are risking their lives in a greater way than those in jail. It was brought to my attention at that time that, if you're out on the road patrolling, you may encounter a criminal. If you're working inside the jail, you will encounter a criminal because you're guarding, right? And it's a very dangerous job working inside the jail. And, I don't think we need to discount that too much. However, I can see the point that having a step up for going to the academy and becoming a patrol officer, that also makes sense in my mind as well. And certainly, I understand the mayor's point on secretaries. I would imagine.
Well, also,
running across.
I don't know what your job titles are in step 9, but I think that's where you said cooks, Wayne,
They're certified.
they're post-certified.
They also.
They're TCI certified.
they're TCI.
Okay, but they're not post-certified.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I have gotten like 2 messages that people need some bathroom breaks.
Okay.
So, we're gonna go into a 10-minute recess and we'll come back and conclude, okay? Thank you.